welcome back to Mentoria 180. I just got back from a vacation in Outer Banks and I am feeling super refreshed, refocused, and ready to really dive in to our safe space here on the internet so we can really talk about different mental health topics. While I was at the beach, I really got to dive into different mindfulness activities. I love, sitting there on the beach, taking in all the five senses as a grounding activity, which I did share on my YouTube channel and on Instagram. So I will have that linked below if you want to check that out too. But the idea of that is really kind of taking in the five senses and understanding your surroundings and just being present in the moment. Mindfulness is super good for your overall well-being, your mental health and kind of reducing stress and feeling calm. So I really got to do that at the beach where, you're hearing the crashing waves, you're feeling the salty air on your skin and your hair, all the good things of the beach and really just, feeling the sand between your toes and when the water washes up and just the most relaxing place on earth. So I did share some of that on the different social media, so if you want to take a look at that. But I really wanted to come on today for this second Sunday session to really talk about kind of negative automatic thoughts. When I was, practicing mindfulness, these ideas were just coming to me about like, hey, why don't I allow myself to kind of be present in the moment when I am at home? Like, why does when I'm here at the beach or like on vacation really kind of allowing myself to do that? So I really wanted to take the opportunity to get on here and share with you guys kind of the most common they call them negative thinking mistakes or cognitive distortions. So this comes from CBT, the cognitive behavioral therapy approach. So we will talk about that. I was on vacation, kind of really taking in the present moment and being more mindful. I was able to pick up on, kind of that daily negative automatic thought process that I have that keeps me from being more mindful. And it's one of the 12 that we're going to kind of go over today. And the 12 are kind of a reoccurring theme or common thinking mistake that therapists have found who have been using CBT for many, many years. So the one cognitive distortion that I find myself resorting to on kind of a daily basis is should and must statements. So that means that I am having a precise or fixed idea of how myself or others should behave, and I overestimate how bad those expectations will be if those should and must statements aren't met. So for me, when I'm trying to relax or be more mindful, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, instead of, taking the time to do this, I should be doing something more productive. I kind of have like this motor in my mind that doesn't stop. So like I have a long to-do list and it's very unrealistic, the amount of things that I try to put on myself to be done in a certain time frame. So instead of, taking that time to do self-care or being mindful, I'm like, in my mind, I'm having the negative kind of downward spiral of, no, instead of, reading this book for pleasure to, bring myself calm and take care of myself and do something that I find pleasurable, which we talked about in our previous Sunday session. Instead of, taking that time for myself, I'm like, I should be doing this off my to-do list and crossing that off. That's more productive. I shouldn't be sitting here doing that. So I make myself feel guilty when I take out the time for myself. So that's just one of the 12 automatic negative thoughts that CBT kind of finds to be universal amongst people. So we're going to go over those 12, and I hope that you can kind of write down times or things where you find yourself resorting to that negative thought process and kind of thinking how you can redirect that thought. Although some negative automatic thoughts can be true, most of them are untrue and only kind of hold like a grain of truth to it. So out of these 12 common mistakes, this is where we kind of see where the thought process turns to be distorted and kind of changes the truth. So out of the 12, we have the all or nothing thinking. This is also called black and white, polarized kind of thinking. You view a situation in only two categories instead of a continuum. For example, like if I'm not a total success, then I'm a failure. So it's that all or nothing thought process. Second one would be catastrophizing, so also called fortune telling. You are unreasonably telling yourself that positive experiences, deeds, or qualities do not count. So you did a project well, but that doesn't mean you're competent. You only got lucky. Another common thinking mistake is emotional reasoning. You think something must be true because you feel or actually believe it strongly, or you're ignoring or discounting evidence to the contrary. So, you may think that I do a lot of things well at work, but I still feel like I'm a failure. Another common thinking mistake is the idea of labeling. You put a fixed global label on yourself or others without considering that the evidence might be more reasonable to lead to a less disastrous conclusion. So like instead of you're kind of just saying, well, I'm a loser or he's no good, kind of having that labeling aspect to a negative thought. Another one is minimization, where you evaluate yourself or someone else or a situation to an unreasonable negative, magnifying or minimizing the positive. So you're getting a mediocre evaluation proves that you're inadequate, and getting higher marks doesn't even mean that you're smart. So kind of minimizing yourself or a situation, kind of having that more negative perception. Another one is a mental filter. So you pay undue attention to one negative detail instead of seeing the whole picture. So for example, I got a low rating on my evaluation amongst other several high ones. So it means that you're doing a lousy job. Another common thinking mistake or cognitive distortion is the idea of mind reading. You believe you know what others' motivations are or what they're thinking, failing to consider others' more likely possibilities. So someone's thinking that I don't know the first thing about this project, so I'm inadequate or I'm not going to do a good job, kind of, taking other people's body language or things that they're saying and distorting them into fitting kind of your own narrative. Another idea is overgeneralization, or we can call that global thinking. You make a sweeping negative conclusion that goes far beyond the current situation. So for example, you felt uncomfortable at a meeting, so I don't have what it takes to make friends. So kind of, giving reason to why you are having a certain anxious or inability to do something. Another one, like I just said earlier, the one that I resort to on a daily basis is the should and must statements. This is also called superlatives. You have a precise, fixed idea of how you and others should behave and overestimate how bad those expectations will be if they aren't met. Last one is tunnel vision. I feel like this term gets thrown around a lot, but from the CBT perspective and the cognitive distortion thinking world, tunnel vision means that you only see the negative aspects of a situation. So you're only looking at it from that negative tunnel vision, not rejecting any positives that could be along with that situation or person or kind of whatever your thought process is working around. Knowing and understanding each of these common mistakes in thinking, I would love for you guys to kind of take the opportunity to write them down or self-reflect in different situations that you have experienced, or going forward kind of tracking different experiences and finding yourself what kind of cognitive distortion do you fall under. In different situations, I find on a daily basis that I fall under the should and must statements, but maybe more in the workplace I fall to kind of that minimization thinking process where, if I'm getting a review, I would tend to focus on maybe one negative thing versus, the overall picture or something like that. Same thing with school. If I, get like one critique, I might focus on that versus the overall picture of, you still got an A, but they're only giving you kind of like the constructive criticism or, that feedback that, is only going to help you in the long run. But kind of fixating on that is where it becomes a negative thought process where that's the only thing that you're focusing on. So really kind of dive into these and think about different situations that you've experienced or are about to experience and kind of see what you fall into in the thinking process. And knowing that is a great place to think of like, okay, before this happens and I fall into this negative thinking or this trap of this downward spiral, I'm going to redirect my thoughts and focus on the other end of it. Along with these negative automatic thoughts that CBT therapists have found along the way that clients resort to, there are also many kind of typical coping strategies that many people fall into when they're faced with a difficult situation, emotion, conflict, those different things. So here's another really good self-reflection activity that aligns well with kind of, identifying what negative automatic thought process you tend to resort to when you're in those difficult situations. So really, understanding how you cope with different situations is important when you're trying to redirect those coping skills, implement more positive ones, or just being more self-aware in general, which will increase and improve your mental health and your overall well-being. Typical coping strategies include avoiding negative emotion, trying to be perfect, being overly responsible, avoiding intimacy, seeking recognition, avoiding confrontation, trying to control situations, acting childlike, trying to please others, displaying high emotions, purposely appearing helpless, avoiding responsibility, seeking inappropriate intimacy, avoiding attention, provoking others, trying to control others, act in an authoritarian manner, or distance yourself from others. Out of these typical coping strategies, personally, I find myself resorting to the need of trying to be perfect. I have come to be very self-aware of my perfectionism and my tendencies for the need to be perfect, whether that's at my job or that's in my schoolwork or just with relationships with others. I'm always trying to make sure that other people are enjoying themselves, having a good time. So in relationships, when I'm feeling that there's a conflict or something, that's when the need to be perfect changes into kind of avoiding confrontation because I don't want to upset someone. But then I also have this boundary of if it's keeping me from being happy or in a good place in a relationship, then I realize that confrontation is needed, but you can do it in a way where you can communicate it better. So understanding the different coping strategies that you use in different situations is super important to helping kind of being more self-aware and redirecting when you are feeling a negative coping strategy appearing and then making it more positive. I hope that kind of reviewing these common negative automatic thoughts and cognitive distortions, as well as typical coping strategies, was helpful for you and kind of leads to self-reflection or journaling to kind of realize where you are and what you resort to be helpful in ways of, if you are, already implementing positive things, that's awesome. Super happy to hear that. Or if you're noticing kind of more of a negative pattern, thinking of ways to implement more of those things. And, kind of there's my puppy. Say hi, Annie. Hi, girl. Kind of adding more mindful exercises into your life so you can be more aware of these things because, being present in the moment has so many mental health benefits and just overall well-being in general. So I really encourage all of you to take the time to really self-reflect on these different areas and ways that you can, be more mindful to always be aware of these changing automatic thoughts and coping strategies. Many of therapists realize that, we may resort to one right now or in different situations, whether that's the workplace, relationships, but over time this seems to change. So always kind of, having maybe a monthly self-reflection or yearly, kind of whatever you find to be most beneficial to you. So I encourage all of you to do that, and I hope that tuning in today to Mentory 180 for this Sunday session was helpful for you. Let me know below any comments or thoughts or kind of, which areas of thinking or coping you tend to resort to. And, I'm always looking for your feedback and ways of different ideas or topics you want to talk about. So let me know below. And I look forward to seeing you guys throughout the week and for our next Sunday session.